What are your predictions in terms of the future?
That's a really good question. We consume so much content, probably more than we should.
What does work mean? How do you know that something's worked?
Even just from an algorithm perspective, personal profiles just perform better.
How do you stop the ego from becoming the driver of your content?
With AI, it's become even harder to be authentic.
Do you think AI is a threat?
AI isn't going anywhere.
Are you worried that it's going to become too noisy?
We've become quite suspicious about what we see online.
What challenges do you come up against when you're talking about personal branding?
I do also think that culturally as an industry, we tend to be quite modest.
I went through this journey myself where I thought to myself, well, some of the things that I actually think about, not everyone's going to agree with me.
This is the most important bit. We can talk about algorithm and carousels and videos all day long and podcasts, but
what advice would you give those people if they're watching this now?
I've had somebody recently that I've coached in about 8 weeks. He had 2 opportunities on the table, one worth 4 million and the other one worth 20 million.
Is there a place for it or not?
It's also about kind of stepping into this day and age.
What's your advice to people to try and help them avoid that ego trap?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So
welcome to the Future Workplace podcast. Now, the idea behind the podcast is that we bring experts together to talk about the future of workspace. Now, the original idea was to bring experts in who spoke about the physical environment, but this is all morphed into the human element of workplace. Why have we got a workplace? How do we provide a workplace that gives humans the best possible environment for them to excel in? What we then do is we bring experts on to talk about that subject. All we ask for in return is a like, subscribe. That gives us a bigger audience. It gives us more access to more people, and it gives us access to the ability to answer the questions that you want answering. So that's all we're asking for. Speaking of experts, we've now got Beatrice Ronchetti. Hello.
Hello.
Hello there. Personal branding expert. And I'm buzzing. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
We've obviously spoken a few times over recent months, but I think for the purposes of people watching, listening, who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? What do I do?
Why are you on a workplace podcast?
Well, I've got answers to all of that, luckily. Well, my background is in architecture and marketing. So I worked in marketing for the built environment for many, many years. And then 5 years ago, I set up my own business. And I decided to specialize even further within the real estate world on personal branding, which I know we'll talk a lot about today. So that's what I do. I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I run workshops and talks, and it's actually very apt that I'm here with you today because I've also just launched a brand new program specifically for people in the workplace sector because I do work a lot in this space.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me.
You've said that before, haven't you? You've made that intro before. Let's go back. Let's build up the kind of the image of Beatrice first. So, let's go right back. Italian. Let's do this bit. So, and I've seen bits on your LinkedIn and stuff, so I know a little bit about this story. But for those who don't, talk to me through how did the UK happen? What's the background there? Talk me through your childhood growing up, what you were into, and then how the UK happened for you.
Yeah, gosh, right back. So, so I grew up in Italy. I grew up in Rome. I only moved here 10 years ago. And I need to find a new icebreaker because I've been saying this a lot on podcasts, on interviews, but normally when I do my talks, I get people to guess my accent because somehow I've developed what I hear as a Welsh, Irish or Scottish twang, maybe a bit Eastern European, and nobody can ever guess that I'm Italian, but that's where I'm from. And I was always quite creative, I guess, as a child. Most kids are creative. I was quite crafty. I just loved, my drawing and all of that. And so when the time came to pick my studies, I went into architecture. And I do think that if at that age, kind of like 17, 18, you know what you want from your future, you're very fortunate. I guess I was drawn to architecture, but I didn't have that clear plan. And so very early after getting my qualification, I think I was only an architect for about 6 months.
Yeah.
But the story goes that I was in Italy and I wanted an internship, and there was an opening in a very well-known architectural practice. I didn't particularly care what the role was. I was like, I will clean the toilets if I need to, but this is a really important experience for me. So I joined, and it turned out that they actually needed somebody in the marketing department, and the only requirement of the intern was that they could speak English, which I could do. So I didn't think too much into it. I thought, well, I'll move across at some point. But actually in this marketing department, I worked with some incredible people that had lots of experience, luckily. So that was my first point of contact with marketing applied to beautiful designs, to the built environment. And I absolutely loved it. But at that point, the thought hadn't quite matured in my head. I think, like most things in life, most of the big kind of turns happen almost by accident.
Yeah.
You get an opportunity and you either take it or not. So I decided to move to the UK because I just wanted to have that experience. And I knew that the career opportunities were stronger at that point. So I started applying, obviously in architectural practices. But whenever people saw that I had that experience, in inverted commas, in marketing, they would ask me, well, will you help us with our marketing and comms? So I joined this small architectural practice in central London, and long story short, I ended up doing 90% marketing, 10% architecture. So at that point, I took it a lot more seriously. So at this point, I was very much learning on the job. But then when I went into corporate, I actually went and studied marketing at the CIM, loved it more and more every step of the way. Then I went agency side, so marketing and branding agency for the world of real estate. So I never left. And then, 5 years ago, so just after COVID, I suppose for most of us, priorities shifted. Most of us felt like, what's next, right? So I started freelancing, and then I set up the business, and again, didn't have a clear plan at the beginning. The story goes that I was working with a big client at this point, big kind of global practice. And when the time came to invoice them, they said, oh, great, send us your invoice. Please add your company details. And I just panicked. I was like, what company? There is no company. And they just explained, well, look, we only work with other business entities. It's super simple. Just go on Companies House and set it up. Little did I know, accounting and all of that, not simple. But I just did. I went, I set up the business. But at that point, I just had a limited company on my hands. And I thought, well, it's time to take this more seriously.
I'm either in or I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was exactly the push that I needed. Like, are you doing this, or is it just temporary? Are we coasting? I decided to properly take the plunge, and I've loved it. Well, for anyone running a business, you will know this. It's challenging, but also very rewarding. It's quite the journey, quite the roller coaster. But so that's what I do today. I niched even further into personal branding as opposed to marketing. I work with people and businesses in real estate, the built environment. And I help them build their personal brands. So their profile in the industry, in their market, in new markets. Typically, the aim is to build pipeline, attract a better caliber of projects, but it can also be to, become a trusted voice in their niche or change the perception of the brand. And as we'll speak, the quickest way to do that is through.
Yeah. Well, I love that story, and the reason I wanted you to share it is because I think other people really enjoy it as well. I've seen it on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and I thought, I have to ask you this question. How old were you when you moved over here?
I was, 10 years ago, so
sorry, don't answer that question. That's a terrible question.
24. I'm 35.
I didn't realise it was 10 years ago, and then I thought that's an awful question to ask somebody.
I'm not worried about saying that number yet. Very close.
Yeah, I've just reached the next decade. I love that. And let's talk about personal branding then. So we work in an environment where, correct me if I'm wrong here, but things still happen the old school way. There's still networking events where you walk around with a bloody cold cup of coffee and you go and introduce yourself to loads of random people. There are still lots of drinks and those sorts of things that go on. Talk to me about why your role is different and what the benefits are of kind of your personal branding side of things as opposed to the traditional way that people did this sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So Especially in an industry like ours, which is very much relationship driven. We don't sell low ticket items, very high ticket purchases, right? Projects. So relationships and trust are very important. So 100% those face-to-face meetings, those networking events have a place. With personal brand, it's about one, accelerating, and I'll tell you why. And secondly, it's also about kind of stepping into this day and age, because traditionally, in our sector, marketing is what we would call corporate comms. So there's a LinkedIn company page, there's a newsletter, there's the website, there's company communications, the brand talks, which is fine. I'm not saying that should be ditched completely, but we have shifted. The online world has shifted massively. Social media platforms change every day. There's a big shift towards authenticity. Not a fan of the word because it gets thrown around a lot, but people want to see, what's real. Our kind of trust threshold has changed as well. We've become quite suspicious about what we see online. We need to see something that will make us trust a brand and also that will make us engage with the brand, because we are spoiled for content. We consume so much content, probably more than we should. And if you put that with the fact that often in real estate, I think we've been guilty of being a bit boring, quite frankly, with our comms. Some niches of real estate construction are naturally a little bit drier than others. But I do think that there's a lot of safe and, a bit stale sometimes content and messaging that goes out there. And sometimes it's just because maybe we don't know better. But if you put that with the fact that there's lots of content and people want to be entertained and engaged, and there's a big competition for that, you can see how corporate comms on their own will either not bring great results. I hear this so much. We've done this campaign, we've worked with this marketing agency, we've done this marketing activity, and we didn't get anything back. Or it will take a very, very long time. So with personal branding, you're accelerating that because on one hand, we're all way more likely to trust a person than a brand. It doesn't matter how cool or how great the brand is. If the CEO or even the associate, the people behind the brand, talk about the work, talk about what it's like to work there. If we're looking at employer experience as well, we're way more likely to trust them, to be interested in them, because there's the human element. And even just from an algorithm perspective, personal profiles just perform better. We're way more likely to be invested in a story in the same way as you said, well, tell me the story because I've read it. It's because I'm a human. And so it's more interesting to hear about that. So that's why personal brand has become incredibly important. And also with that reach piece, when I said that events and networking are still very important, the more touch points you have with your client base, the quicker you're going to build trust and a relationship with them. So somebody might see you at a networking event, then they might listen to the podcast, then they might see you on LinkedIn, and then there are other channels. So what we're trying to do here is really make sure that you can get the best results with the least amount of effort and time, because we're all really busy. And it's also trying to avoid putting content out there for the sake of it. Put content out there that is going to work, with a strategy, with a plan, with a return, because marketing.
What does work mean? Is work shareability? Is it a lead? What does work mean?
As in,
how do you know? So what's the end goal of a post? Is the end goal of a post to be polarizing? Is the end goal of a post to, because I put some quite polarizing things out there myself, and I do want to talk to you about that a little bit. But what does work mean? How do you know that something's worked? Yeah,
that's a great question. It depends on the goals, and it's very important to set those at the start. There's no point doing any form of marketing or personal branding because we know we should do more of it. There has to be a specific goal. So typically the goal could be, well, we want to increase pipeline. Be even more specific. What kind of projects are we trying to attract? Well, projects of this size or of this caliber or in this sector. So knowing exactly the type of opportunity that you're trying to attract, because I do hear from lots of people, we do get work, but it's not the right type of work. So that could be a goal. If the goal is purely pipeline. If the goal is to build the personal brand to become a trusted voice, for instance. The goal could be speaking engagements or invites to podcasts or stuff like that. So you need to set the goal at the start. With personal branding, it's very easy to measure where the conversations have come from because it's your personal brand. So then what you do is you measure the conversations that are coming from these activities and then how many of those turn into opportunities. Views, likes, impressions, all of that, they are important, they're indicators. But to know that something is working, you should have a very clear outcome and typically a price tag attached to it. So a return on investment.
Yeah. And that's something we've most certainly set up. Let's talk about the word authentic. You don't like, or maybe I'm using the wrong term here, but you said that you weren't a fan of the word authentic. Why?
Yeah, so I think the meaning of authentic is very important. I think these days everyone shouts about being authentic, but I think that there isn't much authenticity at the same time. It's a bit like sustainability and greenwashing. Everyone talks about it, but then so that's why it's become a little bit icky to me sometimes. I also think that, with AI, it's become even harder to be authentic in a way. We all use AI. I certainly use it. I also use it for my content. But the trick there is obviously using it as a tool and always making sure that it comes through your lens.
Yeah.
So there's that element. And then authenticity is also about feeling safe with stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit. Now, I'm very careful when I say this because I am not saying that we should share on a channel like LinkedIn things like babies and puppies and beach holidays. That is not necessary. You don't need to overshare. I do think that what sets you apart from a corporate brand, from your business brand, is the fact that you're a human being. And so to really be authentic, you need to bring that side into your content. When I say content, I mean even situations like this, we're producing content about ourselves, right? So it's not just the posts on LinkedIn, but there has to be an element of that is very much about you, your professional journey. Like you said, you put things out that sometimes are a bit controversial. That's a choice. I'm not saying that everyone should do that, but you're putting something out that is unique to you and reflect.
And it's stuff that I believe in, right? I don't put things out because I go, this is going to get loads of likes. I put things out when Rachel Reeves makes an announcement and I don't agree with it and it does my nut in. But I don't do that because I want a reaction. I'm just like, Rachel Reeves is pissing me off and here's the reasons why.
Exactly.
So with authenticity, you mentioned babies and puppies and all that kind of stuff. How do you stop the ego from becoming the driver of your content? So, and I'll give you an example of it. So I put a picture, and my children's faces aren't in this thing, but there's a picture of me in a farm walking the kids. And I've got, obviously, my two kids are in the picture. And this thing blew up. Loads and loads of likes, loads of engagement, all this kind of stuff. And there was a little bit of me, I was like, I've nailed it. But then I stopped and thought to myself, well, hold on a second. What is the point of these posts? The point of the post isn't to get engagement because I've got a picture of my kids on there. The point of the post is to drive pipeline and all the rest of it. So I had to check my own ego because I got a lot of engagement on it. What's your advice to people to try and help them avoid that ego trap?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So first thing I want to say is that if you do feel that you want to post puppies and beach holidays and babies, there is nothing wrong necessarily if it's framed in the right way and if it sits well with you. So that feeds into the authenticity. We should never try and do something because we should be different or because we should always be aligned to what we would say in a room like this, like stuff that you would be comfortable sharing in a professional environment. With what you said about your post, that is really interesting. And yes, the ego piece, doesn't necessarily have a place and it needs to be kept in check. However, different types of posts have different goals, but they can all feed into the same picture. So something that I like to talk about is when I talk about the content mix and people say, well, what should I post? Case studies. And the answer is it should be a mix of three types of posts, basically. Top of funnel. Those are posts that talk to universal topics that can be about company culture. It can be about, you with your children, your family life. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur, etc. Those normally get a ton of likes. They're normally the posts that go viral. And yeah, it's unlikely that you will get an inquiry from that.
Yeah.
But once in a while, those posts are really good because they boost your content. They get lots of eyeballs on your stuff. You get connection requests. So the goal there is to grow your follower base, to reach more people. And then you've got your thought leadership posts, which are there to anchor you to your industry. Will you get inquiries from it? Maybe, but this is more about saying, okay, well, Chris is an expert in this and associating your name with that. And then there's your more direct selling posts, which are about, this is a case study. Look what we did for them. Would you like to know how we could help you as well? So different posts have different goals. It shouldn't be all about, the case study. And that proof is really important, but you can see how it would get really monotonous.
It's a bit boring, doesn't it? Yeah.
And you're missing the human bit, the personal journey bit.
What's the ratio between top, middle and bottom funnel? If I set out a week of posts, would it be Monday, top funnel, Wednesday, middle funnel, Friday, case study? Is it literally split 30?
No.
33, so, you know what I mean?
No, not necessarily. The best thing to do is to work in sprints. Mm-hmm. So it really depends what the goal is for a given kind of fortnight or even a week. But it's much better to say, right now I need to focus on getting lots of eyeballs on my content. I need to grow my following. So I'm going to do a lot of top of funnel posts and not as many thought leadership, for example. Now I've realized that I need people to start associating me with what I do in the industry. I'm going to double down on thought leadership.
Yeah.
So it's better to do to kind of not to just do a type of post, but to skew more towards one type of post, depending on what you're trying to achieve.
Understood. And does having an acknowledgement or an understanding of the algorithm play into that strategy, or am I thinking about things too deeply?
No, it's valid. I'm always careful with the algorithm because it changes every 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. However, what I find is that number one, it doesn't matter what happens to the algorithm. When people produce great content, their posts still go viral. Yeah. And more often than not, it's an image post with some text. It's not a fancy video or everything. So I would always...
We're talking LinkedIn, all right?
We're talking LinkedIn, but I would always be very careful with, carousel perform better. No, it's got to be, the content has to be tight.
Yeah.
And then the vehicle is something else. But in terms of the algorithm, I think it's what we were saying earlier. The top of funnel posts, they will inevitably perform better in terms of likes and engagements and all of that. But then they won't necessarily get many inquiries.
Yeah.
Normally when you're doing a direct sale or you're saying, case study, what happens is you don't get much support, but then your inbox starts kind of being more active. So that's why it's always important to know what kind of post are we doing? Because if you looked at the likes under a case study post, you might be disappointed. But then it's like, well, we actually got 5 people reaching out.
Yeah. What challenges do you come up against when you're talking about personal branding? We work in an environment which is quite stuck in its ways, I'd probably say. I'm trying not to be too polarizing in this question, but that's the environment we work in, right?
Yeah.
What kind of challenges do you come up against when you say personal branding that needs to be part of your marketing strategy? What's the comeback?
Yeah. Oh gosh, how much time have we got? So I would say, firstly, the industry has changed massively in the past 5 years. I think, especially with people like Stephen Butler, Daniel Priestley, and entrepreneurs talking about personal branding, it's become more mainstream in real estate as well. And I've seen that there's been a lot more interest. However, we are a conservative sector and we're used to relying on our little black book of contacts.
Yeah.
So I definitely find that I have to take people on a bit of a journey, kind of education wise, not so much with the kind of newer, younger businesses, with the more established ones, certainly. And I do have to show the value very clearly, which is fair enough, because if people are going to invest time and resources, and it's great that I have those results to show that. But I think there's a need to understand personal brands in some corners of the industry, which is fair enough. But I do also think that culturally as an industry, we tend to be quite modest, if you like, or we struggle to shout about the work that we do, which is also why everyone's hiding behind the posts that go, we're delighted to share and we're thrilled to announce. And often it's the marketing team.
It's a bit vanilla, isn't it?
It's a bit vanilla.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's safe because it's vanilla. And normally, the marketing team have carefully crafted something that inevitably is corporate spiel.
Yeah.
Works perfectly for the company page. And then the employees will go and pinch that and share it. Because it feels safe. It's been, somebody has already proofed it, said it's fine, and we can go out, and it's very risk-free.
Yeah.
So there's that is slowly shifting. But the good news is that for the people that are doing things slightly differently, you're a perfect example on that. There's a great opportunity because, it's very easy to stand out.
Yeah.
So
and I'm finding that I'm getting as many people annoyed with some of the things that I say as what I'm getting people that are really on board and champion it. Now, I went through this journey myself where I thought to myself, well, some of the things that I actually think about, not everyone's going to agree with me. And I won't say that because it's not a very safe thing to say. Whereas now I go, fuck it, I'm saying it. Yeah. And I get as many people championing it as what I do going, I think Chris is a bit of a dickhead, actually. And that's okay. That's fine. But I think I've been through that journey myself where I'm like, I can make it all vanilla or I can talk real.
Yeah. And I do think that, and also we have a very good contact in common that has a similar personal brand to you. Yeah. And I think some personal brands are just intentionally a little bit more controversial or a little bit more. And I think that's great, especially if it aligns to you as a person. And like you say, some people will love it. Those that love it will absolutely adore it. Other people, it just won't sit well with it. Yeah. But it's not necessary. That's not the only way. I've worked with people that have built much safer personal brands. Yeah. Safe doesn't mean boring.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah. But I think going back to the term that we started this part is kind of that authenticity. Like, I am a ex-military guy. I am played football my whole life. I do have that kind of sports locker room type banter and the way. So I'm going to share that. I can't sit there pretending that my P's and Q's are all perfect because they're not. So
that's the strength, isn't it? Especially because remember that at some point people will meet you in real life after they've come in contact with you online. And if those don't sit well together, then that trust is immediately lost.
Yeah. Piers Morgan's made a career out of it. Just going to throw that one out there. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the podcast so far. I'm just going to take a quick 30 seconds of your time to explain to you one of the biggest problems that people have when it comes to fitting out their new office space. And that problem is they get AV in too late. When you get AV in too late, what happens is they treat it as an afterthought. They treat it as a bolt-on. It's a few screens on a wall. Let's just put some screens on and make it work. Massive, massive, massive mistake. And we see it day in, day out, where people treat AV as an afterthought. To try and avoid that mistake, you need to bring AV in, the design of AV in really early as you possibly can. Now, to try and help you with that, we've put together what we called an AV bundle. It's a bundle. The link is in the description below, and it gives you the ability to configure your own AV meeting room so you know what solution you're putting in the rooms. It gives you a risk map for the project so you know when to bring AV in, and it gives you a budget calculator so that you can budget AV in early as opposed to later when you realize that AV, frankly, isn't as cheap as what everybody thinks. So grab the bundle below, get AV in as early as you possibly can, and avoid the mistakes that lots of our clients actually do when it comes to refitting their offices. So you have to try and sell the benefits within our industry. One of the challenges, I think I saw another post that you put on the other day, which was around time. And what's your response to somebody who just goes, this all sounds great, Beatrice, you've sold me the dream, it all sounds fantastic, I just don't have time?
Well, there's a couple things there. So firstly, if people come to me with a goal, they say, great, well, we want to scale from 6 to 7 figures. Number one question is, well, how quickly do you want to do that? Because if you're in a situation where you're not scaling quick enough, you're not getting the projects that you want, how much more time are you willing to basically waste? Yeah. And the second thing is, of course, it takes time to build your personal brand, but the power of personal brand and what I love about it is that, especially when you're activating it on many channels, in many places, it saves you the time that you would normally put into the cold calling and the following up and hello, and do you have a project for me now? How are things going? Because you're suddenly entering people's worlds in a very meaningful way because of that content piece consistently. So you're always front of mind and you're reinforcing that trust piece every single time that somebody comes across you. That is saving you tons of time in the long term because you're speaking to the right people, figuratively, you're drawing them to you, and over time, they just mature that trust, and then you get those inquiries, those leads. And also, if they've come in contact with this content once, twice, 3 times, if you do reach out to them, they're way more likely to go like, yes, let's meet, let's have a coffee. So it's saving you a ton of time, and it's really accelerating that scaling piece.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's only when we started going all in on making time within the actual schedule of your week that we've had people stop me when I've been in town and stuff, and they've gone, I've seen you everywhere. I'm like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not too sure. but yeah, can we talk a little bit more about some of your frameworks and your approach to this kind of stuff? So Be Clear is a framework that you use. What is that? Talk me through that.
Sure. So it used to be Clear. Now I've added a B in front of it. It's evolved. And it's just a simple framework that I've developed to help people understand all of the different things that they should think about when they're building their personal brand. Because I think personal brand often is confused with, I need to post on LinkedIn. So you post and then you leave, and that's your personal brand done. Absolutely not. There's a lot more elements to it. So to give you a whistle-stop tour, so the B is for beliefs, and it's basically around mindset. And I've added that at the front fairly recently because the more I work in this niche, the more I realize that mindset is actually incredibly important with personal brand, especially in our sector. There's a lot of discomfort around showing up. There's a lot of concern about getting it wrong, and sometimes imposter syndrome. Well, who am I to talk about this stuff? I don't know enough about the industry. I don't want to be called out. I don't have enough experience. All of those thoughts. And don't get me wrong, I speak to people that are just entering the space, all the way to CEOs of multi-million-pound brands. They all have the same concerns.
I had the same concern. Yeah. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Is someone going to think I'm a dickhead?
Exactly.
And I don't want to put it out there because someone's going to disagree with this particular opinion. I had exactly the same thing.
Well, that's the thing. And it doesn't matter how much experience you have, because somebody looks at you and, you've built this business, you've got tons of experience, you know what you're doing, amazing feedback. Why would there be any discomfort? But it's internal. Yeah. And so that's really important to think about. So it's something that I've included in the framework that I work on with people, etc. So mindset, first thing, because often that's something that is disguised as, well, I don't have time. Or, I don't think this is really important. It's really that you're terrified sometimes, and perfectly normal. C stands for client. So when I say client, I mean audience. This is the most important bit. We can talk about algorithm and carousels and videos all day long and podcasts, but if the message isn't tight enough, everything will fall flat. So really understanding the audience, but most importantly, understanding who they are, and saying something like, well, residential developers isn't a tight enough answer. We need to know exactly, well, what's their business size? What's their portfolio? Very specific. And then we need to ask ourselves, well, what do they need to see to trust me? That piece is incredibly important. The second part, the third part is L, link up. So this is basically about finding these people now that we know who they are and showing up in their world. So on LinkedIn, it's as simple as connecting with them. Podcasts, for example, what does your audience listen to? Events, networking, speaking. It's about going to find them and showing up consistently with that same message. E is about exposing and educate. So this is where we say, great, well, now we need to expose them to our personal brand. And I like to think of this as, the beautiful thing about personal brand is that you can create the audience that you want. And you can just imagine yourself on a stage. Those people are in the audience. And what are you going to tell them? What do you want them to be exposed to day in, day out, week in, week out? So this is where we talk about content and going back to what do they need to see? That content mix, how does my just personality and journey feed into all of that? So we talk about content and yes, of course, there is an element of do videos perform better, but you'd be surprised how little I focus on that. Because it is about the message. A, active engagement. This is something that people forget, which is to engage and start conversations. On LinkedIn, it can be as simple as leaving some comments. I've had people that have made great connections through comments with potential clients, never met them before, never heard about their brand. And then they took it offline and it turned into a multi-million-pound kind of working relationship. So comments are so valuable. But it's also about just striking up those conversations at networking events, just activating your network. Does everyone know what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah.
Old clients, current clients, people that you haven't spoken to in a year, are they aware of where you're at the moment? And then R is for reach out. So there's nothing wrong with making the ask and kind of doing the outreach.
Yeah.
But there's a reason I always say why this is at the end of the sequence and not at the beginning. Because what we like to do in this industry is as soon as we get an email address or a LinkedIn connection, we've got some PDF somewhere that's ready to go.
Yeah.
Here's our capability statement. Here's a portfolio and all of that. And everyone's, done this before. But what's happened is that the people on the receiving end of that PDF, which has been us at points as well, what do? You immediately switch off because you've had 10 more in the same day or in the same week. And at this point, frankly, you have no reason to give this person or this brand the time of day.
Well, it for me anyway, because I get it all the time, right? You obviously, and yourself as well, owner of a company, you must be on these filters and you just get them all the time. And for me, the minute somebody connects with me, if they are in my inbox sending me a PDF within a couple of minutes, they just lose all credibility. Yeah. I don't even bother. No. So it's and it's because of the noise.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why I like the fact that you put it on the end. There's nothing wrong with reaching out. Speaking of noise, and we'll go into the 4C thing in a couple of minutes, but speaking of noise, you mentioned that people like Dan Priestley, Stephen Bartlett, there's many more people starting to get on the board with the personal branding side of things at the moment. Are you worried that it's going to become too noisy? Everybody's talking about their cappuccino, do you know what I mean? Is that a worry or not?
In our sector, it's not, because we are so behind the curve, and you're very tuned into these personalities, Stephen Butler, Daniel Priest, as am I follow them. So we see a lot of personal brands. In our sector, I haven't come across people that, personal branding is still quite new. So we have a lot of ground to cover, which is great. And it's like any change that has come to social media, really. Yeah. People are moving more towards personal brand. Great. It's going to take a few years. And before it gets saturated, there will be something new.
There will be. Yeah. There will be. I mean, for me, when I was thinking about this journey myself, and I looked at, I kind of started looking back over the years and CEOs, personal brands and stuff. Richard Branson. And I was sat there thinking to myself, this has gone on for years. Richard Branson did it in a way where he was flying off in hot air balloons and sailing the Atlantic and doing all sorts of crazy, into space. Clearly, that was his own company. But all that is really just a personal branding exercise where he's just stuck a big Virgin logo on the side of it and stuff. Absolutely.
He's one of the pioneers. I mean, actually, I was watching a documentary the other day. Who was it? The home lady. Oh gosh, it's not coming.
You'll find it. Scott will find it for you.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. Is it Martha Stewart? It might be.
Couldn't tell you.
And they were saying, well, she was the pioneer of personal branding. Because all of these brands that, are at least 20 years old, where we are very familiar with the owner, think, Bill Gates, think Steve Jobs,
not Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Not all the big brands that we consume are, we're not aware of like the owner, the CEO, etc. No. But with those, we're very aware of the person behind it, and we follow them and we engage with them. And that is undoubtedly linked to the success of the brand, regardless of whether we like the individual or not.
I agree. And like I said a minute ago, Piers Morgan, like him or not, I mean, and I think he's probably, a large part of his tactic is to be polarizing, especially when he says Ronaldo's a better player than Messi, but that's a different thing altogether. But, he will come up with comments like that to be polarizing. Now, I think the personal branding thing has been going on for years. It's just changed. The medium has just changed. Can we talk about some case studies?
Of course.
You don't have to mention names, clearly. There's a confidential nature. Give me some stories of success you've had with people. Yeah. And if you have it to mind, I'm conscious of throwing this just at you out the blue, but some figures. What has that meant to their real life business?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'm so happy that I've got many. So Collectively, my clients have generated, I need to update the figure, but well in excess of £120 million worth of pipeline. So some great examples are, I worked with somebody who was a regional director, workplace office fit out, and within 3 months, they generated £2 million worth of pipeline, which converted into 750K of work at that point, just from their personal brand. So this is all on top of what they were already generating. I've had somebody recently that I've coached. He is a project manager in the automotive space. And this was record time. So in about 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, he had 2 opportunities on the table, one worth 4 million and the other one worth 20 million.
Epic.
Absolutely incredible. And obviously the conversion is something that happens afterwards.
Yeah.
But what happens with personal brand is that any leads that have been generated through your personal brand, because the trust is much greater than, somebody having found your business on Google or maybe through a matchmaking service or something like that, they've spent some time with you already. So by the time they sit down with you, the conversion rate increases because they're already...
Well, there's trust, right?
It's
You've
trust.
not gone through that whole pitch, Dragon's Den style, where you walk in, shake hands and say, right, now let me show you why you should work with us.
Yeah.
You've built the trust already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but epic results out in it. 20 million in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Fair play to him.
Incredible.
Did he land it?
Well, I don't know. It was only... I think it was a couple of weeks ago, so I need to check
You need
in.
to catch up.
But the thing that I love when I work with people, we like to set a target. And typically it's like, right, we work together for 90 days. By the end, you will have this opportunity on the table. So say it's the 20 million or the 4 million. Of course, it's down to them to convert it. But what I aim to prove with that, other than obviously showing them that the process works, is to show both of us that they have mastered the technique. Because if you were able to generate the 20 million pound or the 4 million pound of the right opportunity, you know how to do this now. Rinse and repeat. My job is done.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important. And I think there's also a peace of mind element because, look, we're all busy and we all have marketing budgets and, you have to do stuff that you know is worth it and you have to go in knowing, okay, well, this is going to work. Is there any guarantee?
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to shy away from return on investment.
Yeah, and I think marketing is one of those things, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm relatively in tune with it, with people that I follow and stuff like that. But marketing's always been one of those things which is seen as like, throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. Do you know what I mean? So, how do you avoid that scenario?
That's a good question. So having worked in marketing in corporate for many, many years, I understand the challenges. And I do know that when it comes to brand awareness, there is an element that is intangible, that is immeasurable.
Yeah.
If the goal is brand awareness, it's going to be harder to measure it other than, your views, your impressions, etc. The part of work that I do is very much sales focused. Or if it's personal brand focused, we measure it through things like, well, how many speaking engagements, how many this and that.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's very important to set some very clear goals at the beginning. The more tangible, the better where possible. So we're talking more in the sales realm at this point. And to also set a time frame. And this is not to, hold people accountable, but marketing and anything in business, I think Ali Abdaal says that you should treat it as a doctor in a lab. It's experiments.
Yeah.
Okay, this didn't work. We didn't hit this. Why? Let's go figure it out and try something different.
Yeah.
Every business is different. The landscape changes all the time. But unless you've got some sort of clear benchmark or KPI, even if you're aiming for the stars and you land on the moon, how are you going to know it's
And
working?
how do you know? Yeah, I mean, there's lots of research and kind of stuff that I've done with regards to things like ads and stuff like that. Sitting 10, 15 ads out there with small budget on each one and measuring the impact of those things, and then you try and your surgeon analogy. Speaking of ads, where does that fit within all of this context, within this conversation? Is there a place for it or not?
Yeah, well, it always depends on the broader strategy. Okay, so when we look at ads, we're obviously talking about corporate comms again. So I am an advocate
Or
for...
are we? That's kind of the point. Do you go, well, actually, if I want speaking engagements and I want to put it out to as many people as I can who are all involved in these sectors, we'll stick, I don't know, £1,000 on that, and then we'll test the market. So you mentioned ads being related to corporate comms, but I think that's the question. Is it?
Well, I would say personal brand accelerates everything, right? So if you were to do an ad, I would always have your personal brand behind it.
Yeah.
My kind of feeling and experience on this is that because personal brands accelerates everything, rinse everything out of that first. Sometimes I have businesses that are literally just starting out, and the first thing they want to do is stick some money behind Google ads. Build the personal brand, or even like they will ask me, should I have LinkedIn Premium? There's a lot that you can do organically.
Yeah.
Both of those examples that I told you about, it was all organic through LinkedIn and maybe a couple other channels.
Yeah.
So I would say if you are going to put money behind it, make sure that it's within a bigger ecosystem, obviously, and rinse everything out of the organic first, because especially on LinkedIn, it's very costly to do ads.
Yeah.
And it's got to have a very specific goal, but like very, very specific. So say that it's, speaking engagements. After you have tried to build a relationship with all the event organizers and producers in all the regions where you want to speak at, and you haven't been very successful, go with ads. Or if you're getting to a point where I am in demand, it's just a case of putting my brand in front of people. Yeah. Then it's fine.
So exhaust the organic stuff first. What? Let's talk about practical advice. So people at different stages. So talk to me. What practical advice have you got for somebody who is of that mindset, which is still quite old school? It's still quite, let's go for beers and try and build relationships. What advice would you give those people if they're watching this now?
Yeah. So I would say it's always about the why, isn't it? Because unless we focus on the why, what I'm saying is not necessarily going to resonate. What we're talking about is a means to an end. And so I would invite them to think about their business goals. How well is what they are doing currently working? Is it working fast enough for them? Because it might be that they have a great network, they're established, but they're ready for the next stage of growth and they need to reach new audiences. They can't just rely on the repeat clients. Everyone knows them in the UK, but maybe they want to break into new markets. What's the quickest way to do that? Their personal brand. Having worked in this industry for many years, I can tell you it's your personal brand. So it always depends on your goals and how badly and how quickly you want them. Practical tips as well is I would say always start from those goals, because you need to make sure that it's working. You need to know where you're aiming. And also that's what's going to keep you motivated, because it's very easy with marketing or anything in life, really. When it's time to put time and effort in, we're like, I don't know if I can be bothered. Unless there's a goal that's really important for us. And it's not just, but we should be more active. So know the goal, know the intention, and know the audience. That is what will honestly is the biggest game changer, because when people start to understand their audience better, you can just tell by how they talk, by how they write, and obviously it lands better. So starting point is that.
Brilliant. Bit of an impossible question, this, and we're going to become kind of mystic, Meg. What are your predictions? We spoke a little bit about the evolution of personal brand from Richard Branson flying off in hot air balloons and stuff, and then now you've got the Daniel Priestley's, the Diaries of a CEO, those types of guys, and that difference between Richard Branson building a personal brand with physical events and challenges to now, which is you can do a 30-second reel and go mental. What are your predictions in terms of the future?
That's a really good question.
That's a hard question, by the way.
It's a fun one, because I think we live in a time where never like this before. It's been hard to predict because things change so quickly, and every 2 seconds there's something new that enters the market and throws everything. So this is just an educated guess. I think going back to authenticity, the reason why personal brand has grown so much is because we've come from a time of polished content. When social media first came out, I guess us as human beings, we kind of, did our best to start using it. And obviously this idea of, right, we're now in front of the whole world, we went really polished, and there was the whole culture about, everything perfect. LinkedIn, very boring at times, very corporate.
Yeah.
Now it's become a bit more of a fun space. And like you say, there's lots of cappuccinos and all of that, which, a few years ago would have been incredibly inappropriate. So I think what's happening is there's been a growing thirst to flip that, to see the messy stuff, to see the real stuff, because we all got a bit fed up of like this fake facade of social media, and it's caused a lot of toxicity as well. So it's the rush to authenticity. Personal brand reigns supreme. We want to hear from the people. We want to see what's going on. We want to see the vulnerability. And I think that is going to keep growing, because now with AI, there's an even bigger desire for show us what's real. We don't care if there's typos or if it's messy. We want to see what's real.
Yeah.
So I think actually we might start going a little bit backwards. So I think we're going to start becoming more and more and more authentic. I don't know to what point, to be honest. But we're seeing it already. You know, people do videos while they're walking down the street talking about very serious topics like their business while they're putting makeup on. So I think there's still a bit of a pull, especially if we start thinking about, you know, Instagram and the kind of B2C world, where there's still this culture of filters and everyone has to look
standing
amazing.
outside a Lamborghini and
Exactly. And we know that it's not all kind of rosy, that there's something behind it, like there is for everyone. And then there's this pull for authenticity.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to end, but my prediction is I think the pull for authenticity is more because people are genuinely a little bit consumed by, you know, the facade and all of that. And that's why personal brand works so well, because they see something that is real. They see a person talking.
Yeah.
There's an element of kind of braveness to it, right? As we've said earlier.
Absolutely. Do you think AI is a threat?
I think seeing it as a threat would be naive.
Right.
I think if we do see it as a threat, we are kind of digging ourselves up in a hole, really, because AI isn't going anywhere, I think. I think we've heard this a lot. People that will lose their job are not the ones that will be replaced by AI, are the ones that won't know how to use AI to do their job. I use it as much as I can, because I think the more we understand it, the more it can become our ally, because it's literally like when computers came out, when the internet came out. You can't be like, well, I'm not going to use it because that's where the world is going.
My old father-in-law.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not doing that. That's some rubbish. That is okay. No worries.
Yeah.
Everyone else is.
Well, there we go. And I think especially if you're not at the end of your career, you've got to embrace it. You've got to understand it. You've got to lean in rather than lean out. I do think that there are certain elements of AI that are going so quick, and it's a bit scary when you start seeing, you know, bots just like serving your breakfast or, you know, cleaning your house. And it's like, and there's all these horrific movies, right, that we've seen. And
Tell me about it.
Always be nice to ChatGPT and all of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it's going to go. I hope we don't mess it up, but I do think it's a case of leaning in rather than leaning out.
I saw, because you mentioned earlier about image with caption being quite well performing. I saw something that on LinkedIn yesterday, and it was a guy, I don't even know what his job is, up in Manchester. And there's a photo of him with Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift is just normal, not like star Taylor Swift. She's just wearing normal clothes. And it's a picture of them two. Someone's taken a picture of them. And in his caption, he wrote, this is a AI-generated image. You may have seen it. This is an AI-generated image. This is not Taylor Swift. I did this within a couple of minutes. And the thing that worries me a little bit is if he hadn't wrote that caption, I'd have been like, wow, he's got a picture with Taylor Swift. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then you see these AI influencers, the one in Wimbledon, which went viral over July, August time. And there's a little bit of me that's like, I'm giving my own personal opinion on what the future trend is. There's a little bit of me that thinks to myself, in order to try and ensure that you're not being fooled by a still image of somebody wearing Taylor Swift, somebody having a photo of Taylor Swift, long form podcasts, videos, that kind of stuff is how you maintain authenticity, because you don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah.
So, that's my own personal opinion.
That is the scary thing. And now I've seen software that can, they could literally take this video with me talking with my voice, but put different words in my mouth and you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
And there are people that have a slightly more trained eye.
Yeah.
My partner's a creative director. He works with video a lot. We'll be watching an ad and he's like, well, that's CGI. And I'm like, well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
So I think that is the scary bit, and my brain also thinks, well, why would we use AI to that, to that extent?
Yeah.
It's not really serving us. But I think
people's ego,
Yeah.
because they get likes and comments and all that kind of stuff, and then they become, get a million followers. Great.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. How can we be so blind to what that means for the future, right? Like misusing a great tool like AI. So I think we will naturally become more trained. And there will be ways where people will be able to, show that it's authentic. I know there will be some trend that comes out where if you do something specific in a photo, in a video, then it means, I don't know, almost like a watermark. But,
true.
But again, it's that rush for authenticity because we know that's become harder.
Yeah, it's a fascinating conversation, and again, we've mentioned Daniel Priestley a few times. I might tag him, but he talks about it a lot. And I think it's who's the Shark Tank guy owns the baseball team over in America? Is it Cuban? Mark Cuban?
Yes, yeah.
He's invested massively in real events companies. So, and his hypothesis is people want authenticity. So, in-person live events are the way that a lot of people are going to go. By the way, we're doing a live event 29th of January 2026. I'll stick a link on that below. There we go. Nice plug there, wasn't it? It's like I've done this before. Look, we need to close out. I've always enjoyed our conversations anyway. I've always found them to be really quite insightful. Talk to me about talk to the listeners rather about how they can get hold of you, why they would get hold of you, what their pain is, and how they can get hold of you.
Sure, absolutely. So it's going back to what I was saying earlier. Whatever goal you have going for you, typically it's about pipeline scaling, setting up your own business. How do you get clients? How do you become more established? Your personal brand is what will get you there faster, regardless of whether you get in touch with me or not. That's the key takeaway. If you do want to work with me, you can obviously find me on LinkedIn, and I've also got a website, of course, which is just my name, my surname.co.uk. But LinkedIn is normally the best place to get hold of me.
That's your home. LinkedIn's your home.
It's my home.
And follow Beatrice, because trust me, the content's amazing. I've loved it. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
No, thank you so much for having me.
We're recording this at the start of December, so have a great Christmas.
Yes, you too.
And I look forward to continuing to see the journey on the socials that I follow you on.
Absolutely, likewise. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Beatrice. Great. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I certainly enjoyed having that guest on. Now, in order for us to close this podcast out, what I want to do is just highlight to you that we're an AV company. That's pretty clear. But what we do with a lot of our clients is we offer them showroom visits, basically. So we quite often go around a lot of the showrooms that are available to us. We're doing a big LED showroom visit. So if you want to come and see some of the latest LED technology that you can deploy within your meeting room, we're doing a big LED showroom visit over the coming weeks. The date's not fully confirmed yet, but we have put together a wait list. The link to that wait list is in the description below. If you're interested in coming along and seeing the latest LED and what you can deploy within your office space and the art of the possible when it comes to LED, click the link below, join the wait list. When we've got the date confirmed for our showroom visit, we'll then invite you to that showroom. We'll show you what the art of the possible is. For now, hope you enjoyed the podcast. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell so that you see the next one as well.